In 1934, a dictator handpicked the referees for his own country's World Cup matches. He had a giant golden trophy made, 6 times bigger than the actual World Cup trophy, just so his team could lift it on camera. And his slogan for the players was simple: win or die. Today we're talking about Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy, and how he used the 1934 World Cup, hosted on home soil, to control his own people and impress the entire world. You don't need to know anything about football for this. Just follow along, because this story is wild. Quick crash course. Benito Mussolini ran Italy as a dictator in the 1920s and 30s. He called himself Il Duce, which just means the leader. Think of him as the guy who basically invented the modern playbook for using mass spectacle to make a country look powerful, unified, and a little scary. So why football? Because in 1934, football was already the biggest game on the planet, and the World Cup was only the second one ever held. Whoever hosted it got a global stage. Mussolini saw that stage and thought, perfect. He pushed hard to get Italy chosen as host, and once FIFA agreed, he didn't treat it like a sports event. He treated it like a giant advertisement for himself. Here's the fact that makes it click. Posters of Hercules, foot resting on a football, arms stretched out in a fascist salute, covered Italian cities, alongside Mussolini's face everywhere you looked. Football wasn't the main event. Mussolini was. So what does using football for control actually look like in practice? First, money and image. Mussolini funded the construction and renovation of stadiums in 8 different Italian cities, including Rome, Milan, Turin, and Naples. That wasn't generosity, it was a flex. Look how strong, organized, and modern fascist Italy is. Second, he made sure the team itself was political. He put loyal fascist officials in charge of the Italian Football Federation to make sure everything ran the way he wanted it to. Third, and this is the part most beginners find shocking, the crowds. Every match, fans greeted the Italian team with the fascist salute. It wasn't spontaneous excitement, it was staged. A football stadium became a giant rally. Here's a comparison so this clicks for non-football fans. Imagine if a US president funded every NFL stadium renovation, picked the league commissioner himself, and required the crowd to salute him before kickoff. That's roughly the vibe. Now here's where it gets controversial. Italy didn't just host the tournament, they won it. And a lot of people, then and now, don't think that was a coincidence. In the quarterfinal against Spain, the match was so rough that Spain had to make 7 changes to their lineup for the rematch the very next day, because so many of their players got injured. A referee allowed a controversial Italian goal, where the goalkeeper was clearly blocked, and then disallowed 2 legitimate Spanish goals in the same match. Before the semifinal, Mussolini reportedly had dinner with the referee the night before the game, and that same referee went on to officiate the final too. Here's the wild part. No one has ever found hard proof, no signed documents, no confession. Historians still argue about whether this was outright rigging or just a home team getting lucky breaks. But the pattern was so consistent that the suspicion has never gone away. And the win itself? Mussolini gave the team a custom trophy on top of the real World Cup, the Coppa del Duce, built 6 times the size of the official trophy. A dictator literally built himself a bigger prize than the real one. Here's the part that should genuinely give you chills. What Mussolini did in 1934 has a name now: sports washing. It means using a major sporting event to clean up your image, distract your own population, and make the world forget what your government is actually doing. He wasn't the last. Argentina hosted the World Cup in 1978, while its military government tortured political prisoners in buildings near the stadiums. Qatar spent over $200 billion on the 2022 World Cup, while facing scrutiny over the workers who built it. The pattern keeps repeating because, frankly, it keeps working. A trophy and a stadium full of cheering fans is one of the most powerful pieces of propaganda a leader can buy. So next time you watch a World Cup and see a leader sitting in the front row, soaking up the cameras, remember 1934. Remember the golden trophy 6 times too big. Remember the referee who had dinner with a dictator the night before the biggest game of his life. Football has always been more than a game. Sometimes it's been a stage, and sometimes the man standing on it was never really there for the football at all. If you want the next story in this series, the country that built an entire stadium to torture its own citizens during a World Cup, hit subscribe, because that one's even darker.